Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-Box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Ritter's win may have been the shock result of the season. Without a single podium in his previous 4 races, he stepped up big time to show everyone how it's done in Canada. But now our attention turns to the Netherlands and the championship. Santana holds a comfortable lead, so will his rivals finally be able to cut into it? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 8 of the PRL Formula 3 AM Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Zandvoort may have had a makeover recently, but here in the sim, it retains its previous guys. Let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Zandvoort. This track just to the west of Amsterdam fell into obscurity, but is getting new life in recent times thanks to a resurgence of Formula One fans in the country. Back in the mid-20th century, it hosted the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix for nearly 30 years. Granted, it was on a much faster and more flowing layout. Nowadays, the 5 different versions which are available to be run are mostly tight and technical. The shortest one is a little under a mile, while even the longest only stretches to a little over 2.5 miles. These tiny lengths, plus the narrowness of the track and its lack of long straights, make passing almost maddeningly difficult. The 2 most common spots are Tarzan, which is the first corner, and Hans Ernst, which is the final chicane. Even though it has recently been updated in the real world with more banking, even on the old track here on iRacing, it has an unusual amount of camber for a road course. The 2 aforementioned turns, along with Hugenholtz and Schieflock, allow drivers to carry more speed than you'd expect. It also gives drivers a chance to take slightly unusual lines. Like most old school tracks, runoff is minimal. Mistakes in a few of the faster turns tend to allow no time for recovery and a big repair bill. Another unique quality is the fact that Zandvoort is literally next to the beach on the North Sea. Therefore, the sand easily blows its way onto the track surface and lessens grip. It's a tricky place to race, and even trickier circuit to win at. But with the beautiful surroundings, great history, and a mob of enthusiastic fans donning orange, you can't help but want to go visit this fantastic venue. Well, DJ, with the Formula 3 Masters calling this place home for quite a bit, if ever there was a place for this car to feel at home, I'd say it's here.
You are certainly right there, Joe, and this is a great track to see these relatively low-powered open wheelers on, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see an overload of overtaking. Really, the best place that you're going to see it is going to be going down into Turn 1 into Tarzan, but the camber of the corner you've got to watch out for. Very easy to carry momentum around the top side in these cars, and so diving down to the inside is not always a guarantee. We could see some good back and forth if you get out of Tarzan side by side, going down into Hugenholtz, and then the run down the back straightaway. But unfortunately, the way that that turns out and the way that it ends doesn't really present a good opportunity for overtaking. It's not really down until Masters that you get onto the binders and then into 9 and 10. We have seen some overtaking going down into Hans Ernst, that tricky right, long left sequence. But the most crucial corner on the track because of that area is in these cars, it's going to be Kumo and Ari Lyondike. You've got to get a good run through there, but we have heard for some drivers already that these F3s have a tendency to bottom out a little bit over those curbs, so we could see a few of these open wheelers sliding off, but that's just going to be something else that these drivers will watch out for.
Yeah, there's a lot of pitfalls around this place. It is a tough one. But before we get to that racing, let's talk about how our broadcast is brought to you by ASR. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
Today's event is also brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
And finally, the PRL Formula Series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Performance this season of our leader, Kevin Santana, ever since those first two rounds has been nearly spotless. He finally lost a race, but he finished second back in Montreal. Dave Peterson, who was chasing him, DNF'd, didn't score any points, and so that's going to be a 0 for him, but that will count as a drop week for now. Honestly, the one that beat him is the one that is not really of concern. Ritters only climbs to 8th in the points after that. You can see it stays very tight between Peterson, Broomhead, Coffray, and Tebben behind. We'll be keeping an eye on them to see if any can do something to try and chase down Santana. What about the team's championship here?
Well, Joe, in that team's championship, it's a little bit closer at the top. Viking Hot Rod Racing bleeding away some points in the last couple of rounds to Leading Edge Racing. They're only leading by a single point. Britannia iSports MRM, 22 points back. They're kind of in no man's land, but there is a very tight fight for fourth with Parabola and Godsexy Power tied, with Ridgeway Racing looking in on them with only about 10 points back.
Now, for today's race itself, we have a very similar setup to last week, as it's still 27 laps, but we have fewer rounds remaining this time. Still an open setup, and they have drive-through penalties at 13 and disqualification at 17. There's a few places you could probably go a little bit wide and start to rack those up, but otherwise, it's a punishing track, and I expect that drivers will get damaged sooner than they'll be seeing a drive-through out here today. Qualifying has just started, and I think we've got our first few cars halfway through. their first flying lap. I think the number 1, Cadence Presley, is out there right now trying to be the first to get across the line. Now, he had an interesting incident along with Joey Tebbin last qualifying session at Montreal. Both of them experienced, we're not sure if it's a glitch or something within iRacing itself that discounted their laps, even though they didn't have any off tracks in there, didn't have any disconnects that they're aware of. So we're going to keep a keen eye, see if anybody else has any sort of issue like that. Hopefully not, because it is so tough to pass here.
Yeah, it really, really is, Joe. I think qualifying is going to be of a premium around here. And the driver who was leading off in the practice, by the way, somebody we always like to talk about, Takeshi Kita, was number 1 in practice. So we've kind of harped on him for a couple of weeks here, talking about how he needs to have a little bit better of qualifying times. Looks like he's starting to do that. But we continue to follow Presley here as he comes around onto that start-finish straightaway.
Yeah, Kita's been very quick in a few recent races, even in qualifying. So I think he's finally getting over that as Presley sets a 30.9. Santana's not quicker, and he was directly behind him that lap. So he'll have to cycle back around. They don't have very long in this qualifying session either, as Ridgway now takes the fastest lap away.
Yeah, by about 0.2 of a second there for Ridgway, so that's a good time. Barnett coming to the line. Not going to be good for him. Here comes Scarali. Ritter's bumping his way up to 2nd. Gunderson up to 8th. Duhamel in 7th.
Still waiting for Dave Peterson to set a time. This is Horvath. And a 31.472 is actually going to do decent, but looks like maybe that one did not count. Nope, it did. It put him on. So is James Carter. Now comes down to the line. Looks like that'll get him into 17th.
And so he'll have some work to do there. Here comes Coffray across the line, and that's going to be a fastest lap for Coffray by the tune of about 0.6 of a second. Mega lap there for that number 28.
Dave Peterson is next, and it's a 31.6. Only 14th for Peterson. He'll have to cycle back around and hope for better than that. Santana is going to be the next one across the line. He was pushed down to 12th in the end after that first flyer. Let's see what it's going to be. And again, he does not necessarily need the pole, just needs some decent finishes from here to the end. He's got such a buffer to those behind, but it is a 30.1, and that will put him on the front row.
And that's 0.007 of a second. Oh, Joey Tebbin now popping up to the top of the charts, able to get in there and beat out Ridgway, Coffray, and Santana by about 0.1
Don't know what switched over in the head of Joey Tebbin before this race, but moments ago he had confided to us that he did not feel comfortable out here, but I'd say he's got it underneath him now as Scarali crosses the line and moves himself into 5th position. Things changing around constantly out here.
Yeah, they really are. Broomhead bumping his way up into 5th right now. Here comes Tyler Gore to the line. Gore going to be able to improve by about 0.06 of a second. I don't think that's going to move him anywhere on the charts. Have a little bit of a break here. It looks like the next car to cross the line is going to be Dave Peterson all the way down in 16th.
Second in the points. He really needs to get himself up there. He could use the bonus for that pole position. Let's see if he's fast enough as he crosses. It's going to be a 30.8. That won't do it, but it will at least take him up the order a little bit into 12th. That's still mired in the mid-pack.
Yes, it is. And here comes Kevin Santana. Now, Kevin's been a little bit lucky here. He's had some pretty clean air. And on a track like this, I think that's going to be particularly helpful as he makes his way around the twisty bits. Kevin coming to the line now with a 29.5. That's going to be pole by a big margin.
Almost half a second over Tebbin, but Ridgway gets it down to a 29.9. He's still about 0.3 off of Santana. As we watch Frenier Holtz try to take that first timed lap, he finally gets it down to a 30.5, and that's actually within the top 10 and 9th place for the 14 car.
Yes, it is. Ritter's there going to be in second, so continuing on from that good lap from last week's winner.
Oh, Barnett getting some help into the corner that was clearly unwanted. And unfortunately, that might be qualifying over. He could maybe get out in time from here to get a flyer on it as Donald Olson Now goes through, puts himself no higher than his 18th spot. What about Cadence Presley?
Caden's going to come across the line. Looks like a bad lap there for Sebastian Coffre. He's back in 6th after setting that early good lap time. Here comes Dave Peterson. Dave needs to get a little bit better if he wants to keep his championship hopes alive. Here comes the 35 to the line. About a 10th better, but that's only going to move him up to 12th, rather.
I don't know what's wrong with him today, but he just doesn't seem to have speed. Santana up next, already has the pole position. Could he put himself farther out of reach? Screaming past Steve Myers and Dale Jr. He is indeed going to find time, a whole nother 3/10. Now 7/10 of a second ahead of the next driver and 6/10 ahead of Ridgway, who goes yet faster.
That is an absolute stamp of authority there from Kevin Santana. Comes Mikel Plord coming to the line, trying to improve on a 31 flat. He does with a 30.2. That'll get him a nice top 10 in 7th right now, but still 2 minutes on the clock. Plenty of time for these lap times to continue to fall, Joe.
Ritter's not able to go any faster, but Scarali did to a 29.8. Scarali now on the front row. We have less than a 10th of a second, splitting second down to 6th place.
Really impressive stuff from the field. Donald Olson there able to improve his time. That'll bump him up 2 spots into 16th. Broom ahead now. That's an out lap for the Britannia iSports driver. So going to wait here to spool it up. James Carter's going to get a little bit of benefit of the draft here coming down the main straightaway, but that is not going to help him, unfortunately.
What about Peterson? Where is he right now? This is Gunderson on screen. There's Peterson coming to the line all the way down in 15th. That's a 30.6. Again, he's only making tiny improvements. He's back up to 14th. He gets one last lap to try and go faster. Holtz down in 11th, has his lap deleted, unfortunately. And next, it'll be Santana. He's been on a trend of going quicker each and every lap, but that trend breaks this time.
He'll still have one more lap to get in here. Ridgway unable to go faster as well. Here comes Kita. Kita able to get a good time. That's 2nd place for Takeshi.
Still half a second off of Kevin Santana. Nobody's been able to touch that 666 car as Ritters wants to try and repeat his win from last week. He's going to start, it looks like, from the 2nd position maybe, because he goes to a 29.3, the closest anybody's gotten to Santana.
That's a great lap for him, but only 2/10 off. That's still a big margin if Kevin's able to keep those speeds up during the race. Looks like Hebert's going to call it off there. Here comes Donald Olson, unable to improve. He'll get one last crack at the apple if he wants it. Heffernan looks like he is unable to improve as the checkered flag flies.
Tyler Gore is the first to take that checkered flag with a 31.6, but he'll be in 22nd at the start, it looks like. Gunderson up next abandons his lap into the very tricky pit lane entry. Dave Peterson, he really needs something here, and it needs to be a huge improvement. It'll be a 30.2. That's 4/10 quicker, but it's only 12th place.
That is not great for him. We ride on board with Santana. Now, that is that tricky bit that I talked about coming out of Kumo. You've got to watch those left side tires, make sure the car doesn't bottom out. Looks like Santana's pretty comfortable with that 29.2. He's going to call it here. Coming up next is Ridgway. Let's see if there's an improvement out of the 17.
A 29.8. That will jump him up a little bit. No, it won't. He'll stay in 7th. He's 3 1,000ths off of the next car as Kita goes back to 4th place. Presley across the line isn't able to go faster.
No, he is not. Here comes Ritters. Ritters to the line, not able to improve, so he will start 2nd. Joey Tebbin having a little fun on the way into the pits there. That's not going to be a lap that counts for Mr. Tebbin. Waiting for the last couple of cars here. Scarali looks like he's unable to improve. He'll start in 6th. Looks like Duhamel able to get a little bit better there in 8th.
Broomhead up next from 5th. And he is also not happy with that lap as Heffernan has already taken the checkered flag, I believe. Yeah, everybody now coming into the pit lane from here. So qualifying is finished, and what a grid that is. Some fascinating changes there at the very end of things. At the top of the order, though, Kevin Santana looks to be incredibly quick. Ritters could maybe have something for him, as Nick Horvath will start from 3rd. Takeshi Kita, P4 for him, as Michael Broomhead starts from 5th and Scarali P6. Robert Ridgway, a good race last time, will start from 7th today. Duhamel will be 8th, Vargas 9th, and Tebben gets a top 10 in quali.
Sebastian Coffret with an uncharacteristically low qualifying there in 11th, followed by second place in the points, Dave Peterson. We talked about he's going to have to move his way up today. Mikkel Plord's going to be 13th, followed by Rainier Holtz, with Matthew Gunderson and Donald Olson making up row 8. Row 9 is Cadence Presley and Colin Heffernan, followed by James Carter and Tyler Gore to round out your top 20.
Last 3 to qualify were Holland, Hebert, and Barnett. And then Brian Hotham will be the last one. Obviously, you can disregard the race control in there this evening. And it is a decent temperature on the track. In fact, it's pretty ideal out there at 87 Fahrenheit for our drivers. Looks like just about everybody is gridded up, and the green flag is out. Oh no, somebody isn't off the line. Looks like they're able to get going. And I'm not sure exactly who that was, but they did not go for quite some time. Coming down into Tarzan. Oh, we got a 3 wide that turns a couple cars. I think that was Vargas who gets it going straight once again. Otherwise, we have everybody moving.
Yes, we do, and I believe that may have been Horvath that had a little bit of a problem getting off the line. A little bit of 2 wide action there in the back. Up front, everybody keeping it relatively nice and collected. Not seeing a whole lot there. Holt's able to make his way up into 9th, it looks like.
Bad news for fans of Peterson. He's already down in 17th on the start as we come into Shevlock. Vargas going a little wide here as he gets swamped by Coffret as well. Now into Masters. You watch the leaders head into the infield portion, and someone's off in the background as well as a spin.
That's Kita. That's Takeshi Kita.
Takeshi's going to have a heck of a climb from here, and somebody else spinning off of Renault as well. That was Cadence Presley. Well, they managed to get through the first corner, but after that, it seems it's too tricky of a track for many. Ritters, in the meantime, you can see, is keeping the pressure on the 666.
He certainly is, Joe, and I think that kind of pressure is the sort of stuff that he is going to need to try to get past Kevin Santana. But whoa, look at that run Santana had coming out of Kumo and through Ari Lyondike. Absolutely flawless. He's got himself a nice little gap and able to prevent any sort of attack from Ritters.
Which is going to be crucial here into Tarzan. It's a fast run into this first hairpin. So they plunge down into their first side-by-side action this time through. Going to be Olsen and Vargas, but Vargas spins and gets tipped around. Unfortunately, this time he's not able to survive it. He's going to fall all the way to the back of the field.
This track really catching out a lot of drivers. We talked about how tricky it is, Joe. A lot of 3rd and 4th gear corners. You've just got to be very careful and be very in tune with the car. Make sure you feel when those rear tires start to lose some grip. Riding on board with Scarali right now. A deliberate alternative line there, I think, going through Shevlock, just trying to get a little bit of clean air on the front of that wing.
Seem like things may have settled down a bit. Let's wait for Scarali to get to Hans Ernst, see if he has an attack on Ridgway, and he's definitely not close enough there. In fact, he's under threat from Tebben behind him instead, who's up 4 positions from the start. But everybody stays put. Wonder if we could get a replay on Horvath on that start from 3rd. See if we can figure out if he just didn't get it in gear or what. And apologies, might not be able to get that. We'll check in on that in a bit. In the meantime, Scarali had a little bit of an off and dropped a couple positions. Oh, here we go. Here's the replay with Horvath.
And that's him there in the center of your screen. I'm not sure what happened, Joe. I mean, it seemed like a little bit of a quick grid. I wonder if Nick was just caught sleeping a little bit. It looks like he may not have had the car in gear, or maybe just didn't see the lights go on.
An embarrassing mistake to make, no doubt, and it cost him dearly. He's down in 12th position. Doesn't seem to be able to really do much from there. And Takeshi Kita had his problem a little bit farther up the lap here. This is going to be coming into Renault. Did he get help, or was this all on his own?
I saw it out the corner of my eye. It looked like it was relatively all on his own. Dives down into the corner there. Ooh, ran a little bit wide, and then coming down hard into the braking zone. Letting the car run wide again. Right about here is where it is.
I think he got some help. I'm not sure who that was, but...
I believe that was the number 5 of Mike Broomhead, and so, yeah, maybe a little bit of help given there.
It was hard to tell from that angle, but it could have been that he didn't do that all on his own. Broomhead's still running in the podium positions, by the way, and certainly hoping for more, because that's Steve Ritter's in front of him right now. We hop on board with the 5. A little bit too far back, but definitely keeping the pressure on.
No, very much so. He really, really has here, just keeping some good pressure on Ritters. There's a little bit of strategy I'm starting to think Broomhead may be playing. Doesn't want to run too close behind Ritters, get too much of that dirty air, but just fill as much of his wing mirrors as he can. Double lock up there, both from our first and second place driver there, Santana and Ritters.
Shouldn't be too much of a problem here, since it is pretty cool conditions. Shouldn't overheat the tires. I think Matthew Gunderson had to come in for damage repairs, unfortunately. We look at 10th place Donald Olson, bringing along a string of people. You've got Dave Peterson and Nick Horvath with him. Horvath trying to come through, and Peterson just trying to get some good results here today on his teammate. He ducks it down to the inside of Renault and is passed, and he's going to bring along Horvath.
Yes, he is trying to make it work around the outside there of turn 10. Just has to get the power down. If he's able to keep it there, he will have the preferred line going down into Hans Ernst. I think that's pretty smart there from Olsen, just to back off a little bit. Very tricky to run too wide through that section.
Peterson now into the top 10 with that move. So he's at least making inroads, and I'm sure that is some small relief, but Kevin Santana is yet to take more points, as he is going to get that bonus for pole. Could still get one for the fastest lap, as this is Kofre to the inside of Duhamel with a clean move down into Tarzan.
Good move there from Kofre. He's already up 5 positions. Remember, he started down in 11, so starting to cut his way forward in the field. That yellow car in front of him, that is Joey Tebben, who is also up 5 positions.
Speaking of cutting through the field, Kita's been making very quick work. He has experience having passes done to get by a lot of drivers, so I guess that's coming in handy. He's already up to 14th. This is Tyler Gore in front of him, who just a lap ago was 2 seconds ahead.
Well, we always talk about Takeshi's racecraft and just how good he is in the middle of a race. There you see him piloting his way through Masters, diving down there. A little bit of a back off there from Takeshi. I think just trying to seize the best opportunity that he can, really work in that car as best as possible. I love the fact that he's taken a little bit wider lines, just trying to carry as much momentum as he can.
Could he maybe get something down into Hans Ernst here? He's sizing them up as they accelerate towards that chicane, but just not quite there. As that happened, Nick Horvath was able to overtake Dave Peterson into that corner, so he's now into 10th place, bumping Peterson back 1.
Yeah, so that is Horvath on a recovery drive as well. Very tight line there for Takeshi Kita running through Kumho. He's going to try to keep it through Lyondike. If he's able to keep that power down, which it looks like he is, he pulls out to the inside. Here comes Kita.
He's got some overlap, but he's going to have to be brave on the brakes. There's a lot of banking in this first corner. Does Gore try and fight it? He's way to the outside, giving maybe a bit too much space there, but he hangs tough. He's still in it, and Kita eventually gets the pass done into Gerlach.
Yeah, just some good ferocity there from Kita, not backing off at all. Oh, it looks like we've had a problem here.
Barnett in the first corner, and I see more tire tracks there. Not sure if that's related. Gonna take a stab that it is. It is indeed. Oh, unfortunately, contact on the way in with Vargas.
Ooh, we're gonna ride on board here with Vargas. Let's take a look at this. Going down into Tarzan, you see the effect of that draft for the 22. Gonna poke his nose to the inside here. A little bit of a late move, I have to say, for Manuel. That's a little opportunistic, I have to say.
Yeah, I don't think he ever really had that corner, and that cost both of them, more so Barnett, who wound up spun around, and he winds up in 21st, last running. Now, all still on the lead lap, though, with Kevin Santana in front of it all. He's pulled a gap of about 2.5 seconds over Ritters and just took the fastest lap back from that 66. Broomhead, in the meantime, has been kind of wavering back and forth. At times, he's within 0.3 of a second. Right now, he's 0.75 of a second behind Steve.
Yeah, just keeping some pressure there. Again, like we were talking about with Kita, you can see Broomhead trying to take a little bit of an opposite line there, just keeping some fresh air on that front wing as much as possible. Maybe trying to do a little bit of fuel saving here as well. Not a lot of huge straights around this track, Joe, but if you can save just a little bit here and there, you could see Broomhead maybe try to eke out one more lap.
So, at this point, haven't seen anybody duck in yet, but you never know. We've seen some unusual strategies in this Formula 3 AM series before, and it's worked for some, but not for others. But eventually the pit window will open, and then a few will jump in. In the meantime, everybody kind of panning out into their own piece of racetrack, just getting themselves some space to settle in, which I honestly think we need at this point, because it's not been a frantic first few laps, but it's certainly been eventful.
For sure, Joe. Zandvoort providing exactly what we thought it would. Jumping over here, we said this might be a little bit of battle in a couple of laps. This is Coffray chasing down Joey Tebben.
He's within the slipstream, but I don't think he's close enough. He's within about half a second. Coming up to Tarzan, Tebben is out of reach. He is up 5 spots from where he began this race, and again, he seemed really down on himself coming into this thing. The qualifying kind of turned that around, surprised himself a little bit. Now that he's got the track position, wonder if that's giving his ego a boost.
Well, we can certainly hope so, but Coffray does really look like he is coming on strong. He's been about 0.3 of a second faster per lap as they continue to work their way around here. Tebben diving it into the corner. The gap now down between the two of them to about 0.4.
And Vargas had yet another problem. I think this was a self-spin. Yeah, this was a self-spin from the 22 car. And the day has just been getting more and more miserable for Vargas, unfortunately. Meanwhile, look at Coffray start to get incredibly close, coming down out of Vodafone towards Hans Ernst. As close as he's getting, just doesn't seem to be enough for an attack as he sees that gearbox get bigger in front of his helmet. Oh, wow, a great exit coming off of Hans Ernst. He weaves a little bit, trying to get into the mirrors of Joey Tebben. And unfortunately, a blink from Joey Tebben makes things maybe nerve-wracking for that 28.
Yeah, Tebben having some internet connection issues there, but Coffray just keeping his foot in it. He'll be close enough here for a late dive if he wants to go for it. Ooh, thinks better of it, backs off a little bit, going down into Tarzan. He knows that there's still a big chunk of this race left. Doesn't want to take too many opportunistic chances if he doesn't have to.
So for now, Joey Tebben will keep that 5th place. He's got to watch out, though. If those two start fighting, Duhamel's only about 1.5 seconds back, and Scaralli's only about 1 second back from them. So they could get some company pretty quickly.
They certainly could, and Scaralli's dropped back a little bit, Joe. He was as close as about 6 or 7 tenths of a second to Duhamel, so I think he's just trying to size things up a little bit, maybe a little bit like Coffray is doing as well. They do have Ridgeway right ahead of them. That's the car that you're seeing kind of coming through the screen. He's about 1.5 seconds ahead of Tebben, so Tebben has sights both ahead and behind him.
Absolutely, and honestly, Joey's only 7 seconds behind Kevin Santana, so the pace is not bad here. It's just whether or not he can keep this up and manage to hold on over Coffray, who's known for making a few mistakes. Now, last time we're getting word that we may have heard that Coffray or Tebben were hitting their pit limiter. I think it was Coffray that was hitting his not pit limiter, his rev limiter rather. So I'm curious if he's just running out of top end here. It is open setup. If so, that's a critical mistake to make around here.
Yeah, it really, really is. Oh, look at that run there from Kofre. Good jump off of Tarzan, but not able to make it work. Yeah, that could be a real problem. We'll have to listen in and see if that is the case. The place he would be doing it would be coming out of Lyondike down the main straightaway and into Tarzan. That's going to be the area where you're on full throttle the most. And if that's the case, Kofre's going to be in a whole world of trouble today.
Oh, and Bears had a big wreck, unfortunately. This had some help too. Hotham, unfortunately, sending him around at the fastest corner of the track out of Lyondike. While it might have banking now, it doesn't here. And he just slides it right out into those tires at full tilt.
Yeah, he does. A very unfortunate coming together. That's why you don't see a lot of drivers attempting a pass there through Lyondike. There's really only one good line that'll keep you all 4 tires on the track. So bit of an unfortunate thing there, but this battle now continuing. Hotham under a lot of pressure here from James Carter.
Back to that battle for 5th, though. Kofre still trying to set himself up. He needs a good exit right here, but just getting onto those curbs. He dares more than Joey does, but it doesn't seem to pay him off. And we're onto the front stretch once again. Oh, and behind them, Duhamel just went off as well. Positions lost for the 617. I think he's perfectly illustrated what we've been talking about with the curves on the exit of Kumho.
Yeah, you've just got to be very careful around there. The natural instinct of the car is to let it ride up and over, but the problem is that you get a little bit too much of it, and what happens is the under tray of the car, that skid plate underneath there, will bottom out on the car, and you will have all 4 tires lose grip with the tarmac. Now, we were talking about Kofre, who we ride on board with, and him hitting the rev limiter down the straights. I was listening in, Joe. He was right at the edge of the rev limit when he was about 0.7 of a second behind Tebben. Now, just a little bit of speculation here, but I got to think if he's a little bit closer, he would have nailed into that rev limiter. So I think he's got that top gear down a little bit too much.
I'm seeing more and more spins from drivers around the track, so I suspect just keeping the car on the circuit and pointed the right way is going to pay dividends by the checkered flag of this one. Kofre certainly hoping so. He's trying to get something out of Joey Tebben. Joseph just soaking that up as they come onto the front stretch. In fact, it's starting to look like that 60 is pulling away. It's up to 1.2 seconds. Joey's finding another gear underneath him, and Scarali has unfortunately found the wall instead.
Oh, in that same area, Joe, lots of drivers just finding the edge of grip coming out of Kumho. Here, we're going to watch it. That's exactly what I was talking about on that. That car bottoms out, left sides get off into the grass and the gravel, and absolutely no grip to be found. You see him there doing a good job staying out of the way of the other drivers, not getting an unsafe release.
Okay, Horvath is our first taker, I think. Yeah, scheduled stop, 6-second pit stop, and the 382 is back out and running. This makes sense to me. He was out of position, so he's going to try and see if he can leapfrog anybody by getting his fuel and being on his way at just before the halfway mark of this race.
Indeed. So a little bit of alt strategy there from Horvath. Remember, on that recovery drive from the bad start, from 4th for him. So doing this could put him out in good area. He's got a nice amount of clean track around him. So that's really going to help him here a little bit. He does have Donald Olson about a second up the road from him, but I don't think that's going to hurt him too much.
So take a look at Takeshi Kita. Now who's in his sights? Well, it's Dave Peterson. 9th place that this battle is for. Peterson, I think, might have to write off his championships hopes after this one. Even if he does manage to keep Kita behind him in 9th place, is going to put him massively back from Kevin Santana. He's already more than a win's worth behind. He's trying to weave back and forth to break the slipstream from Kita. Kita's not close enough to attack. That almost was wasted momentum for the 35.
Yeah, we've talked about that a couple of times, Joe. I get the instinct to do it, but really, unless you're on a big super speedway where the draft is absolutely mega. Ooh, Kita looking like he was going to take a little bit of a lunge there into Hugenholtz. Thinks better of it, though. But yeah, if you're making that weave on tracks like this, it doesn't always pay off as well as you think it would.
So as Kita works his way through Slotemacher into Sheevlock. Oh, and way off the apex there for Peterson. That helps out for Takeshi, but it's hard to pass in a Masters. He decides not to take it there. Now we get a defensive move from Peterson. Down into Renault, overshoots the corner just a little bit. Mistakes are coming left and right from Dave. Eventually, he's going to slip up enough that Kita's going to pounce.
I think he is. Now, this is that important run going down into Hans Ernst. Takeshi's got to be careful. That's a very tricky area to try to make the pass, but Takeshi knows how to get on by. Doesn't go for it there yet, but he is still right on the gearbox of that 35.
Within about a tenth and a half behind that 60 or that 35 car. He falls back a little bit now in the wake of the car ahead, down through Lyondike. And this is exactly when he needs to be right on top of him. And just not going to have enough there, as Tyler Gore behind them just announced he's going to be pitting in. Now, this is a very difficult pit entry into this this lane. Let's see if he can maximize it.
Yeah, Joe, it really is. It is the definition, I think, of an old school pit entry, just a hard right off the main straight at full speed, and just a little chicane there to try to bleed some speed off as you get onto pit lane. So very, very tricky. We saw Joey Tebbin sort of deliberately have some fun in that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see another driver finding the embrace of the Armco as they try to make it down pit lane.
It's a cold embrace, unfortunately. Ooh, going very wide on the exit. Takeshi Kita almost running out of track on Sheevlock. We now hop on board with him, and they are running down Sean Duhamel as well. This might become a three-car fight, and for 8th instead of 9th place.
They may indeed. You see there Takeshi taking a little bit more of a narrow line off of turn 10. I think that may hurt him a little bit, but as we've said, not a lot of overtaking opportunity going down into Hans Ernst here. Lock up ahead from Duhamel. Let's stay here with Kita. Let's see if he's able to get a better run here through Kumho and the Ari Lyondike.
Yeah, let's stick with this, but I can tell you that Ritter's just pitted from 2nd place. And that is our highest driver to have risked taking a stop at this stage. Onto the front stretch, and Peterson, Kita, and Duhamel just not close enough to one another for that position to change. Ritter's actually comes out just behind him. There you can see him on the screen as they flash by.
Yeah, so there he goes, coming back out. That's going to be relatively decent for Ritters. He doesn't have a whole lot around him. It's about 3 seconds up the road to Takeshi Kita, so he'll have some clean air to run in.
So Devin is now actually up to 4th place from that, as they get promoted briefly from that driver pitting. These 3 now battling for 7th instead, but that should switch back around once they have to take their pit stops. Peterson having to now take into account what's ahead as well as what's behind, attack and defense, and just keeps going so far deep into Renault, and yet Kita is not able to get through. He's very lucky.
Yeah, he is. I think Kita was looking for a little bit of an over-under there through Renault and through turn 10. Not able to get it. You saw Kita running a little bit wide there. I think that's courtesy of the aero wash. Now this has been, whoa, big chunk of the curb there for Takeshi. Looks like he's got a better run, though, coming out of that left-hander.
He's got to be careful about that. He could either get a cut course, or sometimes the curb far to the inside of that chicane can hit the under tray. I hate to see him get damage that slows him down for the remainder of the race. And once again, just trying to break up that slipstream. Peterson is doing everything he can to keep Kita in his mirrors, as Holtz is the next one to pit.
Yes, he is. And I gotta say there, I think that was an ill-informed move from Peterson. If he had stuck in the draft, whoa, Kita almost losing it.
Well, that was a brave one. Almost reeks of desperation. He's been stuck behind him for some time. In fact, stuck behind him the longest of any of the drivers he's been fighting with. Let's watch on board.
Yeah, just trying to send it down here into Hugenholtz. Yeah, Oh, he touched the grass there, Joe. That car was in a complete four-wheel drift. Amazing car control from Takeshi Kita to keep that thing pointed the right way.
He's got to be careful. I'd hate to see him throw this away. In the meantime, in front of them, Tebben has gone from defense to attack. The 60 is closing in on Ridgway. He's been consistently faster than this 17 car.
Yeah, he really has, and the gap back to Sebastian Coffret has ebbed and flowed here and there. Joey taking a little bit of a narrow line there out of Lyondike. About 1 second, he's not going to get full efficacy of the draft, but maybe just a little bit of help. Dives it down through Tarzan. Good line there for Joey. He's driving a really clean, consistent race here, so kudos to the driver of that number 60.
You know, I think he's taken a little bit of page from you, almost a theater approach where he's had a bad practice and now he's having a fantastic feature. But he could see himself on the podium again. It's been a bit since we've had him up there, but I would not put it against him.
No, I wouldn't either, Joe. Really doing a great job keeping up there through the dirty air of Ridgway, closing that gap down to 0.5 of a second. Ridgway taking a little bit too much of the curb there, I'd argue, through Masters. Yeah, Tebben really driving a great race right here.
By the way, Takeshi Kita stopped in for a pit stop. Peterson did not. I think Takeshi is sick of riding behind that number 35 and is going to try and jump him through strategy. We continue to look over the shoulder of Joey Tebben. Down into Hans Ernst once again. Ridgway getting bigger and bigger in his view.
Yeah, he's certainly closing in on him. If Tebben's not able to get by, wouldn't be surprised if he decides to hop in the pits here, if he's maybe got a good enough line to pull it off. Let's keep our eyes here. Joey again taking that narrower exit out of Lyondike. It's not what I would expect. I would expect a little bit more momentum, but Joe, the leader's in the pits. Santana in the pits.
Yes, indeed. Santana is going to duck in. Remember, Ritters was the one he was racing with, and Ritter's just coming off of Lyondike now. Looks like Santana's out of his pit stall and rolling, and Ritter's ploy is not going to get him a position. Waiting to see what the timing looks like once they cross a line here that gets that up to date. And I think it's roughly about 5 seconds between Santana and Ritter. So it didn't lose much, didn't gain much.
No, he did not, but we've had a couple other pitters behind him. Peterson and Duhamel both coming in, and Takeshi Kita able to get the jump on him. So pitting a lap early there for Kita, paying dividends here in the race.
Trying to see. Yeah, I think Santana still has the fastest lap bonus for this one. So the 666 going to potentially maximize his points in this race. But Broomhead, Ridgway, Tebben, Coffret, Scarali, and Olsen amongst our top 10 that still need to come down into the pits. And we're getting towards the end of that window. In fact, Broomhead is in now. So he's going to hand that lead back over. It looks like Ridgway, Tebben, Coffret all pitting as well.
Yes, they are, and look at that, Joe. Great on the brakes, slowing down for Sebastian Coffret, doing a very, very good job to gain some time on pit entry on Joey Tebben, focusing back on who will be our leader when these pit cycles work their way through, Kevin Santana.
Broomhead coming out. Where is the likes of our other drivers? Looks like Ritters is through, and Ridgway is going to be out in 4th place behind them, just off the podium. Tebben able to get it down to 0.8 of a second with that pit stop, gained a marginal amount on him. Looked like he was about half a second quicker in his pit stall. 9 laps to go now. We've hit the end of the pit window as everybody is now in.
Yeah, everybody's cycling through, so pretty much where you see them out on track is where they are, and most crucially with that, a 4-second lead for Kevin Santana, so a good gap there for him.
Well, now they've got to do it on the track. Santana with the buffer is probably feeling good, looking for win number 5. We look at the 8th position. Not sure if Holtz is feeling as confident because Takeshi Kita, who qualified in 4th, is trying to make up for his early mistake. It's looking unlikely that he'll get to that 4th place position, as he's still about 13 to 14 seconds behind him, but the number 14 car is certainly in danger of losing a spot.
Yes, he is. Certainly is here, and Takeshi working his way down as they go into that right-left complex. We saw Kita struggling a little bit here earlier on. Looks like he's got a much better jump through there. If he can keep up the momentum through Kumho and through Lyondike, he'll definitely be able to get a good run.
Seems to have been a really crucial corner, but as important as it is, not many are able to withstand the buffeting of the dirty air on the car ahead, and Kita just drops back to about 0.4 of a second. They both break down into Tarzan, and the opportunity simply isn't there.
No, it is not, but Takeshi keeping up as much power as he can behind him, just trying to maybe force Holtz here into a mistake. We've seen how easy it is to get offline here around this track, so maybe that's what he's banking on.
Yeah, and honestly, that's not a bad idea, because it seems like so many have made those mistakes. He gets it right down to that white line on the inside through Sheevlock. And he's been strong into Renault out of Masters, but not quite this time. Unless we get a big mistake, which does not come from the 14. Now he tries to square up Vodafone. Looking for a better exit. The car slides all the way out to the curbs, and it's a very good exit. Does the 14 defend? No, he leaves the door open. Takeshi trying to outbrake him, does get to the inside, and Holtz doesn't fight it. He lets him through.
That was a great move there from Takeshi Kita, just late and confident on the brakes, pushing himself forward. Now he's got about 3 or 4 seconds to get up to Nick Horvath in 7th. That's going to be a tall order with 7 laps to go here, but it's still very, very good running here from Takeshi Kita.
Duhamel and Scarali have something brewing for 11th as well. Both of them have basically started in the top 10 and are just outside it right now. In fact, I think Scarali's got a good shot at making a pass. He thinks about it, then gets back onto the racing line.
Looked like he may have had the momentum there if he wanted it, just didn't trust that left foot enough, but he's going to line it back up here. We just saw Takeshi Kita showing off that you can make a couple of passes, a little bit of a lock up there, left front for Scarali, but he's still going to be within about 0.5 of a second as they make their way down this sweeping backstretch.
Tyler qualified ahead of Duhamel by about 2 positions. Scarali, whoa, way off the racing line there. But he holds on to it. Didn't even bother the apex through that corner.
No, he did not, but it didn't turn him too much here. Still able to keep a little bit of a lead away from him is Duhamel. Scarali trying to take as wide of a line as possible, carry momentum, and look how well that worked for him.
Oh, Ridgway just gave away the spot to Tebben. I'm not sure if he got a slowdown penalty or what, but he literally pulled over, and he might lose another one because here comes Kofrade, who is inside. And this happened out of here. Oh no, he just went wide.
Indeed, he just went wide, and that caused that momentum to be blunted, Joe. So Joey Tebben now up into 4th place. Kofrade was able to get by, and that move there has allowed for Kofrade to put the pressure back on to Joey Tebben.
Ridgway's going to want those back. Just a single mistake wound up being so costly for him. With few laps to go, though, trying to get back ahead of them will probably be immensely difficult. Down into the into Masters there. Car is able to just fly through that corner before they break here for the double hairpin, right then left, and then getting onto the backstretch.
Wasn't really there through turn 10, but into Renault. Tebben looking a little bit squirrely. Able to get the power down, though, coming down the backstretch here, so that'll save him for the moment. Bit of a wider line for Tebben. Wow, Kofrade thinking about a move as well.
Coffre is just sticking his nose in everywhere, but unfortunately, that seems to have backfired. Now Ridgway is on top of him. Rob's going to have a great opportunity to try to get back into the top 5 if he can just hold on. He's starting to fall away. Now it's back in his favor as the slipstream pulls him along, but he runs out of straightaway.
Yes, he does, and Coffre taking a little bit of a defensive line there, just making sure that Ridgway wasn't going to be able to make any last-second moves down to the inside. Ridgway starting to weave a little bit back and forth, trying to throw Coffre off his line, but Coffre having none of it. Better into braking there into Hugenholtz as they start to fly down this twisting straightaway. As I thought there for a second, Coffre was going to have a little bit of a look on Tebben.
I don't think Coffre is going to be as patient as some other drivers have been on Joey Tebben. He's looking very aggressive at this point, so Joey's got to watch out. He's left the door open a few times, and eventually Coffre is likely to get his foot in there.
Yes, he is, but not with a line like that. A big mistake there for Coffre as they came through Renault. Just got a little bit squirrely, and again there, that car looking like the rear end wants to step out. Track temperature still holding at 88, but I just wonder if Sebastian's maybe used up a little bit too much of his tires.
Well, we're going to be 4 to go at the line. If he could make those tires hold out for just a couple more laps, then he'll be golden. We ride with Ridgway, looking up at Sebastian, coming onto the front stretch, giving you just a good idea of how far away the car ahead gets through that corner.
Yeah, really and truly just an impressive run there for him.
Fortunately, just way too far ahead. The 28 is out of reach for Robert Ridgway. Haven't seen a pass for Duhamel and Scarali behind them as well, though those two have been remaining close. Little lockup there from Coffre through the corner, and Ridgway going way wide. Oh, who was that off at the side of the track?
I'm not sure who that was, Joe. I think that may have been some lap traffic that fell off there, but you can see Ridgway losing a little bit of touch here with Coffre up in front of him.
That was James Holland, so it was a lapped car. That was not for position, and he took a tow, is now back into pit lane. Day is over for James, as we're now coming down to 3 laps to go. Tebben, just having to deal with so much here in round 8 out of 10. He's been doing a good job of getting himself back in the points hunt, although I'm not sure that he'll be likely for a championship. A top 3 could be possible out of Hans Ernst. Still, Coffre cannot do what he needs to do, which is get the launch right here. Let's see if he can do it this time.
Taking a little bit of a wider line. Oh, that's Ridgway. Ridgway getting into the grass and able to save it, but that's going to eliminate him ostensibly from this fight.
And once again, it's that curb on the outside that did it. So sticking with this battle down into Tarzan. Then there were 2, Tebben and Coffre.
Coffre weaving this way and that, just trying to fill up those rear view mirrors of Joey Tebben. They both take a similar line there through Hugenholtz, start to fly down this area. Coffre trying to hold up behind. It looks like Tebben was able to get a little bit of a better launch there, and so that'll save him for the moment, but the draft coming into effect. Coffre coming on like a train with a full head of steam there.
And the distance between them in the championship right now is only 2 points, so this absolutely is important. And Tebben is going to want to try and hold him back there. Broomhead, another one that he's trying to fight with in the championship, is a little too far up the road here. Once again, a wide entry for Joey, and yet he doesn't seem to be afraid of Coffre being able to get inside of him.
No, I think it's a little bit of a defensive maneuver, if anything there, Joe. I think he's just trying to deliberately shut the door on Coffre, maybe blunt that momentum. Better run there from Coffre, though, coming out of Hans Ernst. Can he keep it together through Kumho and Leyendijk?
He needs to. He practically needs to at this point to try and overtake. This is very good. In fact, I think this is the closest we've seen him for many a lap. Joey knows it. He'll take to the inside, defending, forcing him to go the long way around, but he can't get the overlap. Is he going for the over-under? If he was, it didn't work.
He's still trying to stick his nose in there, though, if he can, but that's going to be the long way around Hugenholtz, and indeed, Coffret has to back off a little bit. Only 2 laps to go. Coffret taking a narrower line there through the corner. That did him pretty well. The gap is holding at about 0.2 of a second.
The penultimate lap of the race, and Joey Tebben is fighting for his life here. Or at least it must feel like it within that cockpit. Coming around Sheavelock, it seems that Coffret is almost exhausted every possibility around this track of where he could put his nose, and nothing has paid off with the position. He could still try some of the things that he's done before, just won't have the element of surprise there. Down to Hans Ernst. He is about 2 car lengths back, and Tebben will be able to hit the apex safely.
Yeah, holds him off there. Remember how close he got, though. They're going to have to see it. Another pretty good run there from Coffret. See a little bit of alternate lines. Both drivers trying to figure that out a little bit. Tebben keeping clear of the curves, as is Coffret. Doesn't look like he got the run he wanted to out of Lyondike.
No, I don't think so. And that was the white flag just recently for Kevin Santana. 1 lap to go. I don't think that slipstream, or that straight, is long enough for the slipstream to allow him to slingshot by to the line. So if Coffret is going to pass him, I almost think he's got to do it in a Hans Ernst.
I think he does too. Thinks about it, though, down into Hugenholtz. A little bit of a lockup there from Tebben. He's able to keep it in front, though. You see a little bit of movement from Coffret. He's looking for an attack if he can get it. Tebben jumping over the curbs there as they work their way up towards Sheavelock.
The nerves of steel from the number 60 today is something to behold. If he could just last a half a lap, he's got this 4th place in the bag. It might not be a podium, but this one's going to be worth celebrating for him. Down into Renault once again, nothing there. This is the ever important corner, the exit of Vodafone. Does he get the run off the turn?
It doesn't look like he gets the one he needs. David Hebert about 3 seconds up the road. That's some lap traffic. We got to go to the leader.
Kevin Santana took 4 wins in a row. He's going to make it his 5th, even though it got interrupted at last round in Canada. But the Netherlands give him yet another victory here in the PRL Formula 3 Amateur Series. Broomhead will finish in 2nd, Ritter's 3rd, and Tebben survives for a 4th place.
An absolutely stellar defense there from Joey Tebben. Put that on a blackboard and teach it to kids on how to defend. That is how you do it for the number 60.
It's not over with Duhamel and Scarali, some of the last drivers on the lead lap. The Viking Hot Rods machine is going to have to play defense, because look at how close Tyler's getting. Is this going to be enough? He'll start to pick up the slipstream. He's much faster in a straight line. As they come to the line, it's just not there. And it looks like Duhamel will stay in 11th and Scarali in 12th. That rounds out our battles on the track. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. So stick around. Welcome back to Zandvoort. We just saw round 8 of the Precision Racing League Formula 3 Amateur Series, and Kevin Santana extends his lead ever more. And I believe he did take the fastest lap of the race, so he basically scored a perfect race as long as he had a clean one out there. Broomhead finished behind him by about 5 seconds. Not a massive gap, but still comfortable enough. Broomhead getting valuable points in his hopes of moving ahead of Peterson as well. Ritters was third today with another podium for him. Back-to-back, Joseph Tebben. Wow, we watched an incredible defense from that number 60 car ahead of Coffre, who you have to give credit for keeping that clean. He made some moves, but didn't do anything untoward, and he fought hard to stay in that 5th spot. Both of them climbed up 6 places each to get to where they finished. Ridgway was in 6th and Horvath 7th. Takeshi Kita, oh man, that mistake at the start wound up being costly, but at least he was able to get back to an 8th place as Holtz was 9th, and Peterson mysteriously off pace today in 10th.
Sean Duhamel was able to come home in 11th, followed by Tyler Scarali and Donald Olson. Tyler Gore was 14th, followed by James Carter and Brian Hotham. And then we'd start to get into some cars that were laps down. Vargas 4 laps down, Holland at 18th, 6 laps down, and Bear 7 laps down, with Presley not able to finish today.
Everyone from there, unfortunately, a DNF, but not Kevin Santana once again, who joins us on the top step of the podium for the 5th time this season. Kevin, you already came into this thing with a full wins worth and then some ahead of the next driver, and you've extended that right now. What is it going to take for others to stop you?
Ice cream.
You know, that works with my wife as well, honestly. So, Kevin, man, you just seem to really have things under control ever since those first 2 rounds. You kind of came out a bit cold here, and then you got things underway in that 3rd round. What switched between those first 2 races and the 3rd one?
Yeah, the first one was a street course, and yeah, I don't agree with street courses, and they don't like me, so feelings mutual. And then I goofed up the pit stop at Suzuka.
So I guess once you got, some of the gremlins out of the way, now you've been on a roll. How many wins are possible before this season is over?
It depends on how fast I can be and not shoot myself in the foot.
Well, we'll watch out for that and see if you're able to stay consistent throughout. Is there anybody you want to thank for this one?
Thank my wife, as usual, for putting up with me.
Great stuff there from Kevin Santana and the 666. And then we've got DJ talking with our 2nd place finisher, Michael Broomhead.
Well, Michael, a really, really consistent, good, clean race there from you. I kind of want to start with the start of all places. Obviously, a little bit of a bad jump off the line for Horvath. What were you thinking in that moment, getting around him and trying to fly on by?
In all honesty, DJ, I thought after it. It was more of a reaction type thing rather than thinking about it. I just, I went the car, but he didn't around him. The way I did.
Well, there you go. Maybe that's my problem, that I'm always thinking about it a little bit too much. So a very solid run here, obviously up from your start on the grid. Do you like this track? I mean, this caught a lot of people out today, but it just seemed like you had it all under control.
It's a fast-flowing track, very hard to follow. Behind Ridders, I could not get any closer. So, it's hard to overtake here. Fun track on your own. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun one. The setup was top-notch today. So, actually, the Britannia boys were a comfortable day.
We'll always like to hear that. Now, we're setting our eyes up the road. We're headed to sort of the opposite of a flowing track, I would say, in Imola, but still just as tricky. How do you think that one's going to fare for the number 5 out there?
Hopefully better than my Flying Husky race there, where I absolutely ruined the start and started plowing into people. Hopefully I'm not going to do that again. I've learned from that experience now, but definitely looking forward to it. And just one thing, I just want to apologize to Keshi. I'm not sure if we actually touched there. I just trying to clip that there.
Well, there you go. I'm sure he'll be happy to hear that. We couldn't really determine ourselves. But Mike, anybody you'd like to thank for this 2nd place here tonight?
Yeah, and Nick and Tyler for sticking out, and Britannia for everything that we've done, and then of course the sponsors, Mountain Benchmark, LeaseIsLight.com, you guys, and of course my family. And
Well, thank you very much. That was your second place finisher, Mike Broomhead. And now Joe Peak is caught up with our third place finisher, Steven Ritters.
Yeah, Steve. So you had a bit of an interesting one as you stopped before the others, and that seemed to have cost you that second place a bit. Are there any regrets on the strategy call?
Yeah, if I had to do it over again, I'd go as long as possible. But I committed myself to pit halfway through, and I guess didn't give myself much options.
Now, you failed to get a podium until you actually took the win at Montreal, and now you've got back-to-back podiums with a third place, so that's got to feel good. Do you feel like maybe you've turned things around from here?
Well, all my finishes this year have been in the top 5 when I finished. So I feel like, taking advantage of some people's mistakes and maybe some people who aren't here, I can finish consistently in the top 5.
And that certainly should help you in the points championship as you continue to rise up. What's your ultimate goal for this season before the amateur series switches to another car next season?
Just to, do as best I can each race, fight for those wins. Kevin's real quick, so he'll have to make a mistake for me to win. But just do my best for each race.
Well, congratulations. Is there anybody you want to thank for today's podium?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my family who's watching back home and my wife and mother-in-law who are here in Edmonton.
So another podium for the Canadian here as we now switch over to fourth place, who gave us a lot of entertainment. DJ is talking to Joey about that finish.
Joey, my friend, are you okay medically? That honestly looked like it was taking everything out you to keep Sebastian behind you.
Yeah, it was not easy in any sense of the word, but I knew that he didn't really have the pace in any of the corners that were important. Down the hill, I don't know any of the turn numbers or any of the corner numbers. Sorry to the people of the Netherlands, but it seemed like in the highest speed corners of the track, I was able to get a run against him and against Robert Ridgway earlier, and they couldn't really do anything. There was one moment where I did actually have to defend into turn 1, and I thought that was when I was going to throw it all away because I'd never broken on the inside before, but it all worked out somehow.
It did indeed, my friend. So, yeah, in that moment when you were trying to, chase down Ridgway and Coffray's behind you, obviously Robert had that little off coming out of those final corners. Were you scared at all about him coming across the track, or was that just sort of this is my opportunity, I got to go for it?
No, because I experienced in practice that same curb, and it just lifts the car off the ground. So you're going straight off no matter what happens. It's very difficult to actually send it back onto the track into somebody's path. So once I saw him go over it, I knew he was screwed because I experienced the same thing about 19 times in practice. I'm amazed I never did it in the race, but I stayed off of it, and it paid off because he finally made a mistake and I didn't.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Before the race, you were saying you weren't thinking you were going to be that quick, and then you were getting some good times there in quali, and then this race was perfectly clean for you. Did you change mentality coming in, or what was the difference?
If I knew the answer to that question, I would tell you. I have no idea. It seems like it's the similar thing every week here. I run like 19th in practice. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a terrible race. And then somehow in qualifying, I get a decent result. I always put it high up on the board early on, and then everybody beats me and I fall back down. But if I survive to the end of the race, it's generally a good result. So I think I just need to stop looking at practice times, or I need to show up earlier when the track is fresher. Either one.
Well, all right. I guess it'll be up to us to figure that one out. Joey, anybody you want to thank for this really spectacular fourth place?
Well, you always got to thank the sponsors on the car that aren't giving me any money. I didn't ask for any. Acme Klein Bottle, doing them a favor. Cliff Stoll, the Marshall Pruitt podcast, always good to shout him out. And let's see, do I remember all of them? ASR, RaceLab, ButtKicker, SimMSA, Ninja Trader, the PRL, Robert and Sebastian for having a good race with me, and that's about it.
Well, there you go, folks. That was your fourth place finisher and defender of the day, Joey Tebben.
Certainly gave us some fun to watch, but we're going to close out with a big thank you to the sponsors as well, starting with ASR. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. And RaceLab, it helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at RaceLab.app, as well as ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. And SimMSA. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. And NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lulan, who provides our wonderful music. Check out our Bandcamp for more awesome work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. You can find out more information at GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race will be at Imola, Thursday, August 19th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out, mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.